jdr3 Productions.
Hey folks, James David Ray III here, and after a year and a month or so waiting for this pre-order, my Airwave has finally arrived. This has probably been the longest wait for a piece of audio gear I have ever done in my life. I usually don't do pre-orders, but I decided to take a chance on this one because of the fact that I thought it was really cool when I saw it at AES 2024. After a quick setup, download some software, do some calibration. It's set and ready to go track your hands. Set it up with my Seaboard M because that is my new trigger device, and decide to play around with the Airwave player, which is an instrument that comes with the Airwave. It also comes with a number of downloadable presets with it, and I decided to use these to take it for a spin to get used to the different controls. All sorts of different things that you can do with this, such as raising your hand, tilting, glide, slide, flex, and grasp. Each one of these controls something different in the instrument, and it's kind of fun to play with. Definitely played with it a little bit longer than I probably should have. No, I played with it probably just about the right amount. It was about 2 hours of me getting used to the controls, getting used to playing with it. You can see when your right hand goes over the left hand, it loses tracking capability, which, I think if I was using a bigger keyboard, it'd be a bigger issue. If I was using both hands to trigger events, it would be a bigger issue. At this moment in time, that is not the plan, and I'm sure I could come up with a way of mitigating any overlap problems. The sounds that come with Roly Airwave Player, they're fun. Not my type of thing. I'm not really a musician. I could see musicians finding it to be a great deal better. From what I understand, the player is its own standalone thing, and you can't insert it as an instrument in any other DAW, but I'm sure you could route around the audio so that it goes into your DAW. So like I said, I played with it for quite a while. It's kind of fun. I will not lie about that. The build seems very stable. It seems like a decent instrument. I'm not planning on throwing it around or traveling with it. It's just going to live in my studio most of the time. This is really what I wanted to buy it for, was Chrono Studio Pro. It just seemed like the perfect pair up with the XY pads on Chrono Studio Pro. This is where I ran into probably the closest part of a hang-up, is the MIDI learn function. So Chrono Studio Pro, you can do a right click on a control and tell it to MIDI learn. And when you first go here, you have to have the Roly Airwave control running. You have to click MIDI learn, and then you have to say what you want it to learn. I've also learned you have to have tracking mode set to always on. It's also easier to keep the Airwave control app on top. The other issue I have with this is that I keep forgetting what the tilt is compared to the flex, what the glide is compared to the slide. I'm sure I will get used to it, but it definitely took me a bit to get used to the different terminology for it. Decided to go ahead and MIDI learn the CC for the raise, because I know what a raise is. Once it learns it, it shoots it all the way up, and now I can control the drive function of Chrono Studio Pro with just raising and lowering my left hand. If I had actually brought my right hand into the picture, you would notice that that was not controlling it at all. And I was doing all of this with just the raise and lower of the hand. Of course, driving isn't the only thing that you want to be able to control, especially with something as performative as Chrono Studio Pro. So I went and pulled up some wind, and decided to see what we could do with that. Again, you have to click MIDI learn. There's a lot of clicking for MIDI learning, which I was not expecting. But once you get used to the clicking and you remember to turn MIDI, you have to turn MIDI learn off also, because otherwise it does get sort of not confused, but it doesn't send the signals that you want. Once you get that, now I'm controlling a windstorm with my hand. You know, I'm using grasp to control the intensity of the wind, and I'm using the XY to control the XY. Raise and glide. Of course, the way I have it set up with the range, I maybe could extend it a little bit. It seems to be very subtle motions to make it do some stuff, especially with the grasp. I don't know if maybe holding my hand a different way would make the grasp a little less sensitive. I'm not sure. I do find some jumpiness with some of that tracking. Play with different wind, same sort of thing each time with Pro Studio Pro, and this is more on Pro Studio Pro, is that you do have to tell it to relearn the MIDI CCs for the controls with each preset. But again, it makes the performance aspect of it so cool. Switching over to Falcon by UVI, same process. What I did find with Falcon is that it does not always accept the MIDI CC when clicking for which one you want. But again, I'm controlling pitch with just moving my hand over to the side, or as they call it, a glide. Glide seems to be left to right. Slide is front to back. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Going through the controls of Falcon, I'm able to do a map for the range so that I can actually have it based off of how far my hand moves, that I can go from complete negative to the positive, which for pitch control makes it a little more interesting, obviously. I have noticed with all this sort of hovering hand motion, my shoulders are going to get quite the workout that I did not expect. And I wanted to see what else I could do, so I loaded up another preset of something I made in Falcon, and I was like, you know what, let's go ahead and throw filter on this and control the filter. Again, lot more clicking, going back and forth and telling it to learn and not learn and learn and not learn, and that was a little more than I wanted to do most of the time. And sometimes, especially in Falcon, it seemed to learn the wrong control. So originally there it learned my left hand even though I told it the right, and now I got control over the filter. Again, you could just add that much more performance to your sounds. So, was the Roly Airwave worth the wait? Still a little bit out on it. Is it doing what I wanted to? Yes. Is it doing it as efficiently as I wanted to? Maybe. Could it be better? I think so. I'm hoping that with some software updates that the MIDI learn function will become a little more fluid. I'm also hoping that the range of motion will get a little better, maybe with a firmware update. But overall, it's going to do what I need it to do. The other nice thing is that you can plug in a sustain pedal, which allows you to hold notes longer than you could with the Seaboard M. So I'm looking forward to playing with that a little bit more. Again, I'm not sure if it was worth the wait, but I'm sure glad it's here now.
jdr3productions.